So this is the Chapter 11, Segment 1 outline, and Chapter 11 is all about intelligence. And so how the book defines intelligence is the ability to acquire, retain, and apply knowledge. So the chapter starts off first talking about the history and development of intelligence tests. And intelligence tests were first credited to make a more ordered society. So the first intelligence tests were designed over 100 years ago and were intended to decide which children would be sent to the most challenging and least challenging schools. And similar tests were used to sort large numbers of men, specifically new soldiers. So when we first start talking about intelligence tests, we first discuss the Binet-Simon scale, which was an intelligence test developed by Binet and Simon for children that consists of 30 different tasks of increasing difficulty. So the idea behind the tests and having children do tasks is that as the children grow older, they should be able to perform more tasks until, like most intelligent adults, they can complete them all. So in this test, they compare mental age to chronological age. So mental age is the intellectual ability commonly found in children of a particular age. And chronological age is your actual how old you are. There is a similar test, it was called the Sanford-Binet test, which was an intelligence test used for American children developed by Terman of Stanford University based on the Binet-Simon scale. And the Binet-Simon scale was originally developed for French children. Now, earlier I said something about using intelligence tests to sort men. So this was used in World War I, such as Army Alpha and Army Beta. So Army Alpha was a written group test of intelligence used to place recruits, and Army Beta was an orally administered intelligence test used to place recruits. So this was to determine ranks and sort the men into what sort of positions they would fulfill in the Army. Now, all of these tests will, as I described earlier, use the comparison of mental to chronological age. So we get into something that's fairly common in when we're talking about intelligence is the intelligence quotients, or more commonly known as IQ. So originally the ratio of a child's mental age divided by his or her chronological age and then multiplied by 100, which you can see down here. This is the definition or equation for IQ. And today, it's a measure of a person's performance relative to a comparison group of people on intelligence tests, which we'll get more into when we start talking about more modern day intelligence tests. And the average score for IQ is 100, which, makes sense. If your mental age and your chronological age are the same, that will equal 1. 1 times 100 is a score of 100. Now, today what's most commonly used is the Wechsler Intelligence Scale. So there's the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children, which is an intelligence test designed for children 6 to 16 years of age, and the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, which is a test designed for adults 16 to 89 years of age. So both tests consist of many individual tasks. This is supposed to be tasks of two basic types. So there's verbal tasks, so relying on written or spoken language, and then nonverbal performance tasks, which is one example used in the book is using blocks to form a shape. So how are intelligence tests administered? So they're all individually administered tests. So for every participant, there's one examiner. It's a one-on-one test. And these tests are carefully structured in their administration or even the format of the test so that they will both be standardized and normalized. So standardized means a test administered according to a set of instructions intended to a set of instructions. Oh, I might have doubled up what I meant to say. According to a set of instructions intended to control the conditions of the test. So the idea is to control as much as possible all the conditions of the test so that the score only accurately reflects the test taker's ability and not how perhaps an examiner may have asked a question or displayed a picture. We're trying to rule out any of that extra error that could contribute to a score. And then normalize, which is also called referent, also called norm reference, which is a test that has been administered to many people so that the performance average and variability are established. So modern day IQ scores compare individuals of the same age group. So when we talked about the earlier Binet and Simon scale, we no longer compare mental age versus chronological age. Instead, which was developed or originally thought of by a man named David Weschler, who obviously his name is also in the common modern intelligence tests or scales, that we test people based on people similar their age. And there's advantages of gauging intelligence relative to that of age-matched peers is that we no longer have to decide what a child of a particular age, quote unquote, should know. So one of the things is the Binet-Simon scale was based on tasks that a certain age group should know. Well, how do we specifically know what tasks are associated with different ages? We can figure this out by testing many different children of many different ages and seeing what skills or tasks they acquire or they are better at as they get older. And another advantage of this type of testing style is that we can also use the same approach with adults. So this method, as I kind of described earlier, involves testing lots of children of all ages and lots of adults to determine an average. And this way, which is commonly seen in all sorts of tests, is percentiles. So we use percentiles as a way of comparing scores on a test using the percentage of the comparable population that scores below a given score. So then this goes into intelligence test scores are normally distributed. So we're first looking at frequency distribution, so graphs in which a score is noted on the x-axis, while the number of people who have each score is noted on the y-axis. And intelligence is seen in a normal distribution, which is a bell-shaped curve describing the distribution of scores around a mean. And the book placed big emphasis on standard deviation because it's the average amount that each individual score falls above or below the mean used to express variance. And if you know the standard deviation and what how much of a percentage of the population is equivalent to a standard deviation, no matter what the mean is, you'll be able to figure out how high or above people are from the mean using percentiles. And percentiles and all of this is also used in achievement tests, which are multiple choice exams given to groups of students to assess readiness for college study, such as the SAT, ACT, and other types of aptitude testing. So lastly, we go into reliability. So a reliable psychological test provides consistent results. And the basic definition for reliability is the degree to which a measurement tool produces consistent, repeatable results. So there are many different forms of reliability relating to tests. So there's the test, retest, reliability, which is the quality of giving similar results when a test is administered more than once to the same person. So how reliable is that test in replicating the same results for a single person? Then we have scoring reliability, which is the extent to which two different scorers report the same score for the subject. We have split half reliability, which is the extent to which different parts of the exam produce a similar score. And then we also have cross-test reliability, which is the extent to which two different tests thought to measure the same trait agree. Then the last little section, this is only the very beginning of the section, for this segment is establishing test validity is more difficult than, I'm assuming it's comparing it. Yes, it's comparing it to reliability. So validity is simply the extent to which a test actually measures the trait it is intended to measure. So is the psychological test we actually administer testing intelligence or what we perceive as intelligence?